Hello, this is Andrew with Missing Remote, and this is an NVIDIA Shield TV, the 2019 model. That should kind of be obvious because, as you can see, it's the cylindrical model, not the more traditional set-top box kind of design or form factor that the older ones have. Although the Pro one, the new 2019 Pro, also has the same form factor as the older models. And with that older form factor, you do get more RAM, 3 gigabytes instead of 2 gigabytes, and 16 gigabytes of storage versus 8 gigabytes of storage, and some USB connectivity. I don't think that I would use the USB connectivity because I never have on any of the other Shields that I have. And so I figured I'd save $50, and we'll see how this one works. I may end up getting the Pro as well, just, because I like to play, but we'll see. So obviously, this is a remote. This is the Shield. This is kind of fancy. I kind of expected this to be a little bit smaller than it is. For reference, here's a pair of scissors, and here's a pen, in contrast to the size of the thing. It's not very dongle sized, but here we have HDMI, and that's the power button, and then an SD, micro SD. So that was another thing. So it has micro SD expansion capability. It's kind of hard to get in there because everything's black. So that if the 8 gigabytes isn't enough storage, which I can't imagine that it won't be, that I can always just add more storage. So that's an option. So, and here's the gigabit Ethernet, and then there's the power. So I'm assuming we'll open this up. I have a little quick start guide and power cable. Yeah, so the power supply is in here, which is cool. So that's very portable. One of the other big changes is that the remote is significantly different with a lot more buttons, a little bit sleeker. Oh, and there's a little Netflix button on it too. Let's see, how do we get this open? Oh, there we go. Or not. Well, the back starts to slide here. There we go. Oh, so it actually comes with batteries, 2 AA's. And so looks like it's ready to go. All right, so let's get it installed and have a play.
So I spent a few hours playing with the Shield last night, and I wanted to get those thoughts out there for anybody who's thinking about getting one for an upgrade, new device, or looking at the Pro versus non-Pro. So here they are. Please do keep in mind that this is just based on a few hours of playing with it, but I think that it does capture enough of the experience that it's worth putting it out there. The first thing is that when I bought the non-Pro, I thought it would hide behind the television pretty well. That's because it supports CEC and uses Bluetooth for remote control. You don't have to look at it. But that said, I'm not sold on the form factor. It's kind of a weird shape, being a cylinder. It doesn't really stay. It would be better if it's just like a rectangular device, so that you could just lay it somewhere, or tape it to the back of the television or something like that. I don't know that that's a massive factor right now. I just kind of have it sitting behind the television, but it is kind of a weird thing, and I do think that the cylinder shape might inhibit some of the cooling properties of the device. Making it a little bit bigger would have been probably a better choice. On the plus side, Dolby Vision. Yeah, it works. Both Netflix, Vudu. I don't have any local Dolby Vision content, so I can't test that. But I did test HDR content both locally and using some over-the-top providers, and that works. But you expect that to work because that works on the older one. Dolby Atmos pass-through works, but that again worked on the other one. I don't have the need to decode on Dolby Atmos on the Shield, but that is something that is supposed to work with this. I will be testing that later on. Happy news, the refresh rate app also works, just like it did in the older version. I played with the upscaling. That's like it was one of the bigger features that is new with the 2019 Shield, and so far, pretty met on it. On high bitrate 1080p content upscaling, I can't see a difference between the non-upscaled or the basic upscaling and the AI upscaling. But then again, that's high quality content, so you wouldn't really expect it to be a massive difference, but it doesn't work on the content that I most want it to work on, which is something like YouTube TV. It just doesn't. It says that the frame rate isn't supported, and that's exactly the kind of content where you want something like this to clean up the artifacts of like crappy television broadcast that is then compressed and streamed over the internet. So that is a kind of a letdown. I'm going to play with that a little bit more, but so far I certainly wouldn't buy it for the upscaling. The next thing is the first run, and it is magnificent. It only took about 10 or 15 minutes to get it going. And in that includes the time that it takes to update the Shield experience and the remote and set some defaults up. And the experience just works great. Like it asked me, do you want to turn on Dolby Vision? And of course I want to turn on Dolby Vision. But not every television will support that. So it's great that it goes through that. Authentication to most providers works well. I didn't use a keyboard because only Voodoo was the one that requires a password, and that kind of sucks, but it is what it is. I did see some issues with Cody and Plex, and I'm not sure what the problem was, but basically the remote stopped working. I don't think it was the remote because both CEC commands worked with the remote, so the device is processing and pushing CEC commands up the stack. The power on also worked, and the voice command worked. It's just the transport controls that stopped working. And I think that most likely what's happening is that there's either a bug in the UI or the device can't adequately cope with the bitrate demands of the content that I was playing, because this was very, very high bitrate 4K HDR content. So I'm not sure there. I need to test that more, but I was not pleased to see that. I do wonder if that's one of the limitations of the non-pro versus pro. Cooling, because of the form factor, almost certainly isn't going to be as good with this guy versus the pro. I've taken a regular Shield apart, and there's a proper like fan inside of that. I haven't taken this guy apart yet. So I don't know what's inside there. I assume that there's a fan. It does get warm to the touch. I'll have to get some thermal images of it to see what it looks like for the full review. But I can't reproduce the Cody Plex issues with consistency, so I hesitate to say that it can't do it. It could just be like this is the first time you've run it, kind of wonkiness, but certainly something to keep an eye on. I do think the price is reasonable at $150 for what it is. I love the Shield. It replaced my home theater PCs a few years ago, and I really haven't looked back. The only major issue that I had with it is that it didn't do Dolby Vision, and now it does do Dolby Vision. I'm not sure that I'm going to keep this guy. The form factor thing kind of puts me off a bit. I didn't mind the form factor of the other Shield. I kind of like the way that it looks. And if I continue to have problems with Cody and Plex, maybe that extra gigabyte of RAM is the thing that makes it work better, or maybe the form factor cooling is the thing that makes it work a little bit better. But that's certainly something that I will be looking at and paying attention to, and hopefully it works great. anyway, thanks for watching. Hopefully you found this useful. If you have any comments, please put them in there. Let me know, which one are you looking at? I'm still, as you can tell, kind of on the fence. I just went with the cheaper one because it was cheaper and I thought it would be interesting to play with it. So pop it down there. Let me know. Cheers.